What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another car review. This is of course the 2017 Dodge Charger Hellcat. Huge thanks to Dodge for providing us with this very sweet Hellcat to review for you guys today. So about the Charger Hellcat, well, obviously it is the four-door version of the Hellcat that gives you lots of practicality in addition to this awesome 707 horsepower engine and the very aggressive looks you get with the Hellcat. So for the Charger here, I love this bulging hood you have with a little scoop built in, and this one of course you can't miss with this yellow jacket paint with the carbon fiber stripes on it. But I just love, you know, the headlights on these new Chargers look so good on all models, and then you have the more aggressive front bumper here on the Hellcat that looks great. You have the very wide tires and wheels that look great with those Brembos sticking out. And going down to the sides, I still love that little like side scallop you have there, which is a signature trait from Chargers of the past. And out back you have those awesome racetrack tail lamps there that, you know, go across the entire width of the back end and look really good. Another cool retro throwback that also looks very modern, and overall just such a muscular and aggressive look, and it just looks awesome. Right, so the interior of the Charger Hellcat, well, it's a very nice place to be, of course. Anyway, though, first things first, sitting down in these seats, nice leather bucket seats that really have great bolstering. The typical SRT bolstering, if you've sat in other SRT products, this will feel familiar. So you have very beefy torso support that actually, you know, it hugs you in pretty well, even if you're a thinner guy like myself, but obviously it's wide enough to fit all body types comfortably. And then the thigh support is also actually quite nice and comes up a little bit further than even a lot of other sportier vehicles of this type, and so overall it's actually a nice and snug and sporty feeling seat. Additionally, these seats are heated and cooled, and they're very comfortable. You know, they're soft, and you know, so in addition to hugging you in well, they're also very comfortable seats to sit in for long periods of time. Next to the steering wheel here in the Charger Hellcat, which is the same as all the other Hellcats, which is a good thing because it's a great steering wheel, just nice, thick, beefy wheel, has a really nice 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches, has a little bit of an interesting design here at the bottom where it's kind of like a flat bottom in a way, and you know, you have these little metal paddles that are like half paddles that work very well as normal paddles here. They are mounted to the steering wheel though, and you know, you have the little buttons behind the wheel as well to change your radio, in addition to the normal buttons you have here on the front of the steering wheel. But it's a nice uncluttered wheel, really. You know, I like that the buttons are large and there's only a few of them, and it's a very attractive wheel with the metal accents and the contrast stitching, and overall just a really great wheel. Next to the gauges here in the Charger Hellcat, which are awesome. Not quite as awesome as the Challenger Hellcat in my opinion, a little less retro, but still very attractive, very sporty and cool looking. I love the red backgrounds you have there on the analog dials. Then you have that fantastic digital portion that you always have here in SRT products that is just outstanding. I mean, it will display any parameter of the vehicle you can imagine in there. In addition to having all the performance metrics, you know, you can measure whatever it is you want to do and measure it all here. And so it's cool to have whatever kind of information you want there all custom tailored right in front of you. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here though, right up top, you have the great 8.4-inch Uconnect touchscreen, which is a fantastic head unit. It's always quick and responsive, very easy to navigate very well in the way that it's laid out. Has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which makes it, you know, really top notch in my book. Yeah, but all the menus and stuff are your typical FCA stuff. It all looks very good. And again, like other SRT products, you have the different drive modes pages there, and you have the SRT performance pages, which isn't quite as advanced as what I've seen recently in the 2018 models, you know, with the Hellcat wide body and you know, Trackhawk. But this does have a good amount of information still, and again mirrors a lot of the stuff you see in the center there, so you can measure all your different performance metrics and, you know, pull up whatever cool info about the car you want. And so overall, you know, really great head unit in just about every way. Coming down to the climate controls and volume knobs and stuff, it's just a few buttons here. You know, first you have your volume and tune knobs, which is very appreciated to have both of those, and then you have a launch control button and the SRT button to skip to that performance pages, and a couple other buttons there, and then you have just the one dial for your fan speed for climate control, and you can go into the climate control settings in the screen and do more advanced setups with that. But nice to have all the basics here, but again, just uncluttered, simple, and I just really like that they didn't try and overcomplicate it. As far as storage space in the Charger Hellcat, it's quite good actually, just like all the other Chargers. So anyway, first thing in the door here, you have a large map pocket with a bottle holder, which is always great to see. Coming over to the center here, you have a pretty deep center cubby that actually goes fairly far back. Also has a power outlet right there, and it's also rubberized, so it'll hold your stuff in really well, and so good to have that. You have this little skinny cubby next to the gear selector, which is a small that you can, maybe fit the key fob in there, but that's about it. And then you have these two cup holders that are illuminated and a great size there, and so good to have those. And then coming back, you have the center armrest, which is very nice and softly padded, feels pretty good. And you open that up and you'll see a two-tiered setup with this little coin holder, cell phone holder type of thing here up top. And then when you remove that, you have way more space there in the bottom, and that does slide forwards and backwards, by the way. But anyway, you have two USB jacks, an auxiliary jack, and then also another power outlet in there. And so great to have all those hookups in there, and just a really large center cubby here too. So very usable for just about anything, and overall just a really great space. Backseat space in the Charger Hellcat is also very good. Again, one of the benefits of having a full-size vehicle here, it's very spacious. So I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself, I still have several inches of legroom to spare there, a couple inches of headroom to spare as well, and it's a very soft, comfortable back seat. Really just feels spacious, and just a really great place to spend time. There's also air vents back there, heated seats. They also have their own USB jacks back there. There's also bottle holders in the doors in the back there as well, and the only thing that's missing is there aren't normal cup holders in the back there. There is no full down center armrest that I could see, and so no traditional cup holders, but you do have the bottle holders, and like I said, you have the two cup holders up here, but that's the only odd thing. Otherwise, it's a fantastic back seat. Trunk space in the Charger Hellcat is also excellent, like all the other Chargers. A very wide, deep and long opening there, so it's really great. You can fit several suitcases in there with ease. Very versatile in that regard, and so overall just a really great family car in those ways, with a roomy back seat, roomy trunk, and so a very livable, daily drivable car once again. All right, so start up and go for a drive. The Charger Hellcat has two different keys, a black key which is like 500 horsepower, and then the red key which gives you the full 707, and a very cool key, a typical Dodge key otherwise, but very nice to have it in red here. Anyway, it's of course keyless entry and push button start, so you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it roars to life. Alright, so setting off in the 2017 Dodge Charger Hellcat. So the first thing you notice about these, you have a little bit of a higher seating position. Now, I mean, you can lower your seat, but you have this hood you have to look out over with a nice big large scoop and bulge kind of setup going on with that hood, which is cool though. It adds to the fun of driving this car, of having this menacing looking hood to look out over. But otherwise, visibility is quite good in the Charger. I mean, like I said, you still have a very good view forward. It's a large windshield. View out of the sides is pretty good as well, although you do have a B-pillar there that's a little chunky, but you have the blind spot monitoring and stuff to help you with that. And then view out of the back is also actually pretty good there, with a pretty large rear window. If you're not used to full-size cars though, this can feel a little bit bigger than your average mid-size, family sedan kind of deal, but it doesn't feel overly big or nearly as big as an SUV or something like that. And so overall, it's a pretty easy thing to drive. Also, while we're just cruising here at 45 miles an hour on a main road, it's amazing just how quiet and refined and smooth really the Charger Hellcat is here. Obviously this is still a Charger, it's still a comfortable full-size sedan, and so even though this is the Hellcat version, you don't give up any of the comfort. It's not like it's got an overly stiff suspension or anything like that. Definitely would be an awesome daily driver, not only because it's got tons of power, but because it's very comfortable and feels actually fairly luxurious in here. But let's turn down onto the straight road here and see how the Hellcat does. And here we go. Wheel spin! There it goes! Oh yeah! Oh man, that sounds fantastic. So the Charger Hellcat has the glorious 6.2 liter supercharged Hemi V8 engine that does 707 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, and 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. And this is actually the fastest of the Hellcats as well. This one will do over 200 miles an hour top speed thanks to the better aerodynamics versus the Challenger. So a very impressive car in just about every way. And another acceleration is just too much fun. It's so crazy. Oh, this thing. So, you know, these tires, so it has 275 wide tires all around. So it doesn't give you a ton of grip. So it's just a lot of wheel spin off the line. But it's fun because you get, you know, this drama and excitement and the sounds and the craziness. And then once it hooks up and catches, then you get the G-forces that just throw you in the back of your seat and pull from any speed. And I really love this 8-speed automatic. It's a ZF 8-speed they use here in the Hellcats, and it is just so well paired to this engine. It's so quick to give you the downshifts. It immediately puts it into the exact right gear that you need and want, and just oh, it's just great. And then if you want to just throw it over into manual mode, I mean, you can just do that, and very quick shifts. And it's almost immediate. It's really a very, very good automatic transmission. And again, makes this a very fun daily driver because it doesn't frustrate you, you know, with its automatic shifting schedule, and it doesn't try and immediately keep it in the higher or in the lower RPMs as long as possible. You know, it's not scared. You put your foot down and you get the power. You know, you don't have to floor it in order to have it figure out that you want more power. So it's not worried about getting the best fuel economy. You know, I mean, well, you know, once you do let off and chill out, then it will, you know, cruise down at, you know, 1400 RPMs and, you know, be very sedate and calm. But it just, you know, it doesn't waste any time. Whenever you need or want that power, it'll give it to you immediately. And I love that about it. And I love the sounds you get too here, of course, like all the other Hellcats, just so good with the crackles and pops out of that quite loud exhaust from you know, a factory standpoint. It gives you so many good sounds. You get the glorious supercharger whine up front from this V8, and it's just a delight to the senses, to all the senses. It's just wonderful. It's just, these things are so much fun to drive. There's a reason why Hellcats are so, you know, famous, not just because of the 707 horsepower, but because of the way they deliver that and the way that it makes you feel whenever you drive it. It's just a ton of fun, especially on straight roads like this. But I'm gonna go on to some corners here in a few minutes and you know, see how this handles a little bit. I have been driving this vehicle though for a couple of hours already on the Road to SEMA road trip that we've been doing here, and so I have a decent amount of seat time in this, and it does handle pretty good. But we'll go try out some of these corners and I'll talk about it a little bit more. All right, but now we're going around some corners here, and they're sweeping corners, nothing too you know, aggressive or taxing on this large vehicle. It's a really great handling vehicle for what it is. I mean, you have the 275 wide tires all around, so that gives you good grip. You have the Brembo brakes, which bring you to a stop very well, and are very strong brakes that just, yeah, they can make you face plant pretty quickly. So very good brakes. You need the big brakes though, because this vehicle weighs almost 4,600 pounds. So a very heavy vehicle, but again, you're talking about a full-size sedan with a 707 horsepower supercharged 6.2 liter V8 engine. Of course it's going to be heavy, and that's just the price you pay, but it's okay because, like I said, this thing doesn't really feel that heavy. You know, over the time I've been driving it here, it really you know, it's really quick with its turn-in. It doesn't really have too much lean or body roll in the corners, and overall it's just a fun thing to drive. And there hasn't been a point in time on normal public roads at sane speeds where I'm like, man, I really wish this thing handled better. So you know, I think it's plentiful for what most people are going to encounter on a daily basis. No, I wouldn't pick it as, you know, an autocross car or something like that, but for daily driving and fun spirited driving, even on back roads and things like that you know, are fairly windy and whatnot, I think it's a really great vehicle, and a lot of fun to drive. Other things to note though, steering weight is actually really great here. I don't even have it in the sport mode or anything, it's just in the normal mode, and I found that just even in normal mode, these things are set up really well. There isn't even a need to fiddle with all the different you know, settings and things like that, although you certainly can, and custom tailor it to exactly the experience you want. But you know, even in normal mode here, it's a nice weight to the steering wheel, not overly heavy or anything, not super light. It's just right really for a vehicle of this type. Throttle response is also razor sharp there. You know, like I said, you got that quick response to the automatic, so every little touch of the gas pedal, you get some response from the engine there, and it definitely feels sporty and well dialed in. And like I said, those brakes are very meaty feeling, and they really start grabbing right towards the top of the pedal there, so you don't have to wait around for them. There isn't a lot of dead travel, and overall they do a really good job too. So now I'm going down this mountain that I'm currently on and going around some corners, and even at higher speeds here, 60 miles an hour, going around corners here, it feels nice and tight and settled, and so really confidence inspiring, to be perfectly honest, going around these corners, and feels really great, and it's amazing. So I'm just coasting basically, and you can see how quiet at 60 miles an hour it is in here. There's no craziness. There's, you can make it as mellow as you want. It all is up to your right foot and how aggressive you want to be with that gas pedal. Because if you just let off of it and just coast like I'm doing now, then you're, it's very quiet and just very sedate. The last couple of things I want to mention are fuel economy and price here in the Charger Hellcat. So these start around $65,000. This one, as equipped, is only about $72,500. So not a ton of options, just has the Harman Kardon sound system and a couple of other, small things, the racing stripes and whatnot. And so, it's really impressive because, when you think about now, like luxury sedans, like obviously this one is heavier and not quite as athletic as some of those, but, for daily driving stuff, unless you're taking it to the track or you have really super tight corners on your daily commute, how often are you going to need that additional handling? This has most of your bases covered 99.9% of the time usually, and so I think that it's a really great value because you're not going to get 707 horsepower in any of those other sedans, and even if you did have that much power in them, it would be way more expensive. So just the value proposition of the Charger Hellcat is awesome, and like I said, it still does handle very well. It's very impressive with its performance figures. It's right up there with supercars, the 3.4 seconds there to 60, and you get it all, and you get the practicality and everything else, all for it's under 70 grand. If you take it easy on the options. So it's, I think, the Dodge products, especially with horsepower per dollar, it's just unmatched. But especially it's a nice place to be too. Yes, it's not the highest quality of materials, and yeah, if you want to go spend 70 grand on a base E-Class or something like that, then you can get nicer interior panels and stuff. But for those that care about performance, first and foremost, I don't think there's a better deal out there for a four-door sedan than the Charger Hellcat. It's just an absolute blast. The only other thing that's, could be a downside is the fuel economy, of course. Now, these definitely don't get the best fuel economy, but I will say that this thing does like to drink gas, and if you get on it, you can watch that gauge go down real quick for the fuel, because it's obviously, when you have this type of an engine, that's just something you come to expect, but just something to keep in mind for those that are considering daily driving one of these. You certainly are going to have higher fuel costs as a result of that higher horsepower. And of course, like I said, I'm using the red key. If you had the black key and had less than the 707 horsepower, you'd probably get better fuel economy that way, but that's no fun. So I doubt people would actually do that. But if you do take it easy, like I said, just coasting and things like that, it does do a really good job of conserving fuel for you and only burning it up whenever you're actually getting on it and having fun. But yeah, so that's it as far as just about all my impressions here on the 2017 Dodge Charger Hellcat. So huge thanks once again to Dodge for providing me with this vehicle to review for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts on the Charger Hellcat in the comments below, and whether you would take this or one of the other sports sedans for 70 grand. And thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care. One last rolling acceleration. Oh man, these things. I can easily see how this thing would do over 200. Easily.